A great way to deepen your understanding of the in-body result sheet is to examine common body types you may encounter during testing. We will go through each major section of the result sheet and highlight their characteristics. An athletic body type will be identified by a D shape. This is characterized by higher skeletal muscle mass than fat and weight. For example, you may see a weight within the average range, skeletal muscle mass that is at the 100 percentile or higher, and fat mass within the average range. Drawing a point from the weight to the skeletal muscle mass, back to fat mass, and straight up to weight, the letter D is formed. The D shape represents a physically strong, healthy body. Those with lots of muscle mass may even end up in the above range for both muscle and weight. A D-shaped body can be considered to have a healthy balance of body composition variables. High levels of muscle and low levels of body fat decreases the likelihood of developing diseases like cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, or certain types of cancer. The athletic body type is also the perfect example of why body mass index, or BMI, is a bad metric to assess health. BMI only takes into account an individual's height and weight. Therefore, an individual who is very muscular will be penalized for being high in body weight. For example, there are times where weight might be driven above the average range as a result of excess muscle mass. The reason for the elevated weight is that muscle is a lot more dense than fat. So a very muscular person with a low body fat percentage may not look overweight, despite weighing more than your average Joe. In this case, using BMI would cause the individual to be categorized as having the same health risks as those who carry excess body fat mass. That is why percent body fat is a much better indicator to use to assess health. Let's use the example of comparing two individuals with the same weight and the same height, but different body compositions. Using BMI, because the individual weight is much heavier than average, they will both be categorized as obese and will be considered at risk for developing health conditions. With percent body fat, you are able to assess each person as an individual and categorize their health risks appropriately. In doing so, you will avoid classifying the individual with high muscle mass and low percent body fat as being at the same level of health risk as the individual whose weight is primarily fat mass. Segmental lean analysis is one of our most popular sections, especially with athletes. In the athletic body type, we see that all of the bottom bar percentages are over 100, meaning there is sufficient muscle to sustain their overall body weight. Next, it's important to use the bottom bar to look for balance within the body. This is especially important to look for in athletes, as this balance is often vital in the sports they play. The segmental lean analysis can also be used to identify imbalances resulting from swelling, injury, or overuse. The ECW-TBW analysis describes the ratio of extracellular water to total body water for the whole body. The ECW-TBW ratio is also known as an edema index due to its ability to detect changes in fluid balance between the intracellular and extracellular fluids. This section can be used in the athletic client to complement the segmental lean analysis when monitoring for swelling related to overtraining or injury. The body fat lean body mass control serves as a general guide to identify what changes would need to be made in both body fat and lean body mass in order to get the client to the average percent body fat, which is 15% for males and 23% for females. In this case, no changes are recommended by the control because this client has 10.2% body fat, which is below the healthy average of 15% for males. This client, like most clients with a D shape, has sufficient lean and muscle mass. Therefore, no changes were recommended to lean body mass. The segmental fat analysis section allows the client to see how fat is distributed across the 5 body segments. This can be used to help the client understand where they tend to store fat and to track progress as they improve their fat composition, much like this athlete has accomplished with their training program. The basal metabolic rate, generally referred to as BMR, refers to the number of calories burned in a 24-hour period if the body were at complete rest. This means without including any calories burned from activity. This number is directly tied to the lean body mass. The more lean body mass an individual has, the higher their BMR. Use this tool for athletes to make sure they're consuming enough calories in order to maintain the lean body mass gained through training and to support maintenance throughout the athletic season. Visceral fat describes the fat that lies under the abdominal wall, around the organs. This fat is largely associated with the risk of developing chronic conditions such as diabetes or cardiovascular disease. In order to reduce this risk, it is recommended that clients maintain a visceral fat level under 10. As we can see, this client sits well below the mark because of how lean he is. However, when evaluating athletes for visceral fat, it is important to keep in mind that some sports, such as football or hockey, may require the athlete to carry more visceral fat in order to cushion the organs from impact. This does not necessarily mean that having a higher amount of visceral fat will increase the risk of developing a chronic disease in many athletes. However, it is still important to monitor that this fat storage is not too high or increasing unintentionally. For all clients, no matter what body type, it is important to emphasize a healthy balance of muscle and fat. The professional can utilize the results sheet to set goals for the client to promote improved health and wellness across the lifespan. Now that you understand the breakdown of the results sheet, you can start implementing the InBody as part of a successful program.